the impact or the importance, if I will, to identify an attack vector um, as quick as possible before you see an absolute damage being done, because brand reputation is at stake, business continuity being at stake, and today with the kind of um, partnerships that the organizations are operating in terms of sustenance as far as business is concerned, there just cannot be a weak link in any of the existing partner that you are associated with, especially while majority of transactions are on electronic data exchange. Just one weak link is actually bringing down the business big time. And that cannot be acceptable, both from transactional point of view and brand point of view. Now, when you suggested how quickly or how nascent do we identify an attack vector, which actually brings to a point where how exactly is CISO today in any business vertical that we may pick in is poised to go back to the board and put this perspective in front and suggest to the board how the strategy way forward in terms of faster detection. Because what I'm taking out, Ravi, of what you suggested is how can we quickly detect an attack vector faster with amicable data points is, I think, could be the key based upon what you suggested just a while back, Ravi. If you may touch base upon that, should be helpful.
Yeah. So one is, the pace and the speed at which, and again, I would like to bring three vectors. One, in our cyber parlance, we call it as known. That means there are threat vectors which are known to you and known to the external world as well. And
Correct.
there is a second vector, we call it as known unknown. Known to the external world, as an enterprise, we don't know. So we may be
Correct.
dark, not knowing there's already an APT attack. The dwell time of an APT, as you know, it can vary from 90 days to 180 days. In the US, within 90 days, we are able to surface. But as we move to Nordics and this part of the world, it may even go across 200 days. So the unknown, known, unknown. And the third element is unknown, which means if there is a 0-day attack happening, neither, the adversary, I mean, more than a 0-day, at least 0-day, yes, the person who discovered the 0-day, at least he's aware. But the third vector is the unknown. That means, neither you are aware nor the adversaries are aware. Is there a way to do this 0-day discovery? So keeping all this vector in mind, and very importantly, some of our own assets which are already in the deep web, dark web, could we get an insight into this? And then taking all of this into account and then quantifying, the level of risk and how do we be risk averse? How can we be? Perhaps one is to buy an insurance, cyber insurance. Today, most of the US entities, I asked one of our finance organizations in the US, who's our customer. So they did mention, yes, we have purchased for $20 million in the event of any untoward. So while the premium we will continue to be paying, can we reduce that even premium? How? If today a cyber, let's say a cyber insurer evaluates your perimeter, evaluates your entire cybersecurity, perhaps if there are enough controls in place and there are preventive measures that are in place, chances that is, once you have quantified the risk, your cyber insurance can also come down. But today, when we go to the board, it is a CFO. CFO you'll have to talk the CFO language. You want to understand an APT or a ransomware. I mean, ransomware is now the whole world is aware. But if you go and talk about a malware, and you specifically talk about a sophisticated malware, you have to translate these into a business language and then quantify and say, hey, board, we are exposed to X million worth of assets, which now with the perimeter having shrunk, with the advent of the software defined network, there is no perimeter. Every work from home today is an office by itself. So, with any kind, anybody can be a victim to this. So therefore, communication to the board with proper business understanding and then translating it, putting it in front, a lot of approvals for capex or operational expenses are very much apparent and it is possible. But I'm a firm believer of, as let's say you're a manufacturing organization, you're manufacturing cars. That is your core business. Focus on the
Absolutely.
core business. And then, there are experts, whose job and their living happens or comes out of cybersecurity. Entrust the cybersecurity to the cybersecurity professionals, as opposed to, inclusiveness and say, hey, I would drive my cybersecurity, because today the one is, the dearth of human resources in cybersecurity. Today we pay 200% jump, 250% jump in terms of the current cost to the company. So having said that, one is there is definitely a deficiency in manpower. Second, there are technologies. Unless we understand the technologies today, one of our own practices today, we, for many of our customers, based on the threat intelligence, we are doing an intel-led hunting operation, and then going back to the SIEM and tell the content engineering team to tweak the playbooks or the use cases, and redefine a use case or write a new use case, and then test against the indicators of compromise, use the MITRE attack, advanced tactics and techniques and the common knowledge, and then understand the cyber kill chain. And then, we are trying to build n number of use cases. This is the way, we have been. But now the question is it sustainable? Because we have, as practitioners, we have n number of customers and n number of threat vectors. We need to be preventive. We cannot go back with a compromise, or we cannot anticipate a P1 kind of an attack vector. So for all of this, yes, one is the communication to the board. Second is keeping the house in order. For that, there is no one single silver bullet. So which means that we need to do a lot of exploratory to see how we can be more vigilant, build our resiliency, and enhance the visibility. Today, unless you have the situational awareness, it is very difficult for a CISO to go back and say, I can sleep tonight quite well, and I can go back to the board and say, we are extremely, we have a bulletproof cybersecurity as a practice.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point made, Ravi, and one of the key takeaway of how do we ensure that the organization has a better cyber posture is probably to focus more upon their core business, and think about handing over the job to someone who's more trusted, more bringing that subject matter expertise onto the table. Trust a partner, offload that to a partner who can walk hand in hand with your business and the cybersecurity evolving landscape or threat landscape, if I will, and counter that out. With that, Chaitanya, so in terms of how do you think that from a technology point of view, this coverage can be brought in? When I say coverage, Ravi pointed out few of the details from a threat detection, early threat detection point of view, and proactiveness by bringing in active threat intelligence and focus upon threat hunts. How do you think this scenario can be addressed? Probably you may want to throw some light over here, Chaitanya. Yeah, you should be able to talk now.
Thank you, Praveen. Yeah, very, very interesting conversation to be coming in. So, first of all, the most important element here now from a cybersecurity point of view, I feel, is a very proactive approach to threat identification, and then having a suitable mitigation strategy adopted. So that brings in the traditional way of doing cybersecurity for your organization or your customer would be very reactive, wherein we used to do an EDR or a firewall or an IPS for that matter. But then now we should also be aware of what are the digital transactions that are happening across the digital estate that we are performing our business operations with. So, and with the whole pandemic scenario, this whole digital estate has gone haywire. Almost anybody can work from anywhere, and still they need to access their business data. They have to conduct all those business operations and do multiple transactions. So we have to take into account all these permutation combinations from an end user point of view about
Mm.
the links that he or she would access, the kind of emails that he would get, or the kind of data that he wants to transact. So that is where I feel a MDR platform, manage, detect, and response platform, would come in handy for businesses so that they can concentrate on, the best part of their life, which is their core business, and leave it to the experts who can help them with, all the uh, incident investigation, triage of what are the alerts that have been coming, what is what how to remediate these identified problems or events, and do a proactive threat hunt to identify the possible vulnerabilities that can be exploited by the hacker going forward. So I feel that proactive approach, with coupled with a next gen or a new age MDR platform, which can help any business to address problems like slow threat detection and response, or lack of security expertise. I guess that would be a very essential element going forward.